doesn't seem right. Okay, I've got the Briggs starter off the tractor. Here's the stripped out gear, the weird washer thing. I actually did that because I didn't have the retainer, the proper retainer. So I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and rebuild this thing. I've got a new drive cap, end cap, the drive clutch, I think that's what that's called, retainer on the way. And I've already actually taken this apart, but I went ahead and put it back together just to show how to do it, I guess. So I would take in a vise, I'm going to make sure it's supported real well, and drive out that pin with a nail set. I just used a regular old nail set and hammer. Knock it from that side. And actually I hammered it in there too hard to mock it up, so now it's stuck in there. And then there are these two screws that go all the way through, come out this side. And once you get that done, you can pull this end cap off, or drive cap, and that off, and get the, I don't know what that thing's called, the main winding thing. Get that pulled out, and see what we got inside there. So with that pin driven out, let's take these dumb washers out of here, get that gear out of here, and this thing just comes right off. It's got those two flats that set in with those two on that, and then take these two long bolts out. And then this side's got the brushes in it, and they're gonna fly everywhere. Well, not fly everywhere, but they're gonna fly out of their position, see, like that. Now when you get a new one of these, it's got pins in the back, and so what you do is they're retainer pins, and they hold all those brushes in place. Then you stick it on there, and then you pull them all out, and it releases those brushes, and those springs push the brushes into the commutator. So they just kind of hold the brushes in place while you can get this on there. And it's got a little bushing right there that this rides on. So that's that end cap. And then the drive cap is the one that I've got that's actually got worn quite a bit. I've actually already taken this apart, and I drove this bushing out thinking that I could get a replacement bushing for it, but you're supposed to just get this whole thing. So I've got one of these on the way. It was like 15 bucks on eBay for a NOS one. But you can see, or maybe not, which side is it? I think this side here is worn. I think that makes sense, because it's like this on the tractor, and then when that thing pushes on the flywheel, it lifts up on it. So it's been bearing on this side right here real hard its entire life, and it wore an oblong hole in there. So that's what's going on with this part. And then this has actually got two magnets in the case of this. So you gotta just pull it out. Ooh, pull it out real hard. Now I've also worked on this commutator a little bit too. It was pretty dirty, and I've got pictures of that, so I'll probably try to show those or splice them in or something. There's a big chunk of that out, but overall that's in okay condition. So I'm going to get set up for my little rig that I got going for polishing the commutator, and we'll join back at that point. Alright, here's what I figured out. I basically take the end cap there and chuck it in the vise, and then I take the other part and lean it up on these two things, and then put a drill on that part, and that allows me to basically set this thing up on kind of a little, I don't know, lathe, I guess. And then I'll take this 600 grit sandpaper and keep sanding on this until we get all these black spots out of there. And then I've got these Martindale carbon brush seeding stones that look like this. And then that'll be the final thing that I do on this commutator to polish it up real nice so it works properly. I'm gonna call that good. I like that. It looks really good. Alright, we got the new parts in. Let's see, I forget what that's called, winding or whatever. So we have a new end cap here with new brushes. And this is interesting, it's got these pins in here that are holding the brushes in place. So when you push that end into there, it pushes those pins out and releases the brushes into it. There's the new, I already had the gear, but there's the new drive clutch. You got the new retainer instead of those stupid washers. And then the new drive cap, I think is what it's called. The fresh new bushing in it. So I guess it's going to be a pretty simple matter of just sticking this winding into the casing or the case or whatever. Putting that end on it, putting that end on it, and then you know, putting this drive clutch and that on there, and then the retainer on the end, and it's pretty straightforward from here on out. I guess the magnets are going to kind of want to pull this thing to one side or the other, so I'm just going to try to stick it in the right end first and foremost. See if I can't get it to pull in there. No, it just pulled right in there. So there's this square part that lines up with this stud for that. I'm assuming you just stick this right in there, and let's see here. Yeah, it's already starting to push those pins out. The more you push them in, there you go. Pull these things out, and that completely releases the brushes into it. Alright, the magnets kind of drag these bolts one way or the other, so you just kind of got to fish them around in there. And I don't know really what this thing's for, but we're going to put it on there anyway. Okay, whether or not you need that bracket depends on the shape of your block for your particular Briggs engine. So I'll link a video in the description that'll explain whether or not you need that and how to use it and all that. Some kind of grounding thing. Yeah, you can feel the magnets kind of working it around. So get these through bolts tight. So far so good. Make sure this was that one, is that right? Yeah, 5/16. Yep. I don't know, snug them up. I don't want to break one of these new things. This end cap's made of plastic, so I don't know. That's pretty good. Yeah, this is really simple. Stick that guy in there. And I guess retainer goes on there. And line up, I don't know if I can even catch that. Yeah, line up that hole, the slot. Drive in this drive pin. And I will try to rig something up on this vise so that I'm not hammering on these new bushings. So. And let's see here. I really like to drive it a little deeper than what it is. Let's use this nail set, I guess. Yeah, that'll work. I need to stay. Fall and break all this work I've done. I bet this lighting is just absolutely terrible. Went a little too far, so let's just meet it halfway and then. And there it is. I got the gear on right, didn't I? Yeah. See, the gear's got these little bevels in the fronts, and the backs are square, so it goes up to there and spins back. everything's good. Now, since it is new brushes, I don't know if I should run it for a little bit off of a battery to seat those brushes, like I think you normally do that. But yeah, that's nice. I like it. Can't wait to put it on and see if it works. I mean, I know it will, but anyway. Okay, now that's completed. Alright, here it is all installed. Looks pretty good. Let's see if it works. I think I can reach up here and do this. And this thing starting is another issue, but